Am I coming from a fear-based pattern? Am I coming from a fear-based part? Or am I coming from my soul perspective? Am I seeing the world the way that Universal Source sees it? Because you're going to get a lot more done if you can activate the vibration of your soul and see the world the way that your soul sees it, instead of being actively attached to different wounded parts of yourself, which are manifesting more problems. Because problems manifest by the focus on negative things. And they get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you notice them and realize that you have the power to think about it in a different way, to be solution oriented. And when you're only focusing on good things, you're actually not even creating problems, so you don't even need to find solutions. Good things just keep coming to you. You keep creating more. Everything that you want shows up right in front of you easily and in a really fun, magnificent, brilliant way. Welcome back. My name's Christina Joy, and on this channel, we discuss all things EDM yoga, meaning embodied divine manifestation, movement, and meditation. We love to live our yoga practice on and off of the mat. In this video, we are going to go deep into the energetics of your own personal soul frequency and how your soul thinks about you, so you can bust the myths of the different parts of your psyche that are trying to lead the way down the path of your life. In internal family systems therapy, we focus on speaking to all the different parts of ourself. And it happens that a lot of us, especially in the spiritual community, when you've been on a path for quite a while, you may have learned that you're an empath or your intuition is really, really strong, and that's why you feel things so deeply. And the thing is, when you fall into the trap of thinking that your anxiety is your intuition, you start manifesting things that you don't want by virtue of your focus on those things. So when you start to get to know the different parts of yourself and you realize that one part is saying one thing and another part is saying another thing, instead of falling victim to, I'm nervous about this thing because, and I have a gut feeling that this isn't going to be good, and telling the story of what you don't want, which therefore will manifest more of what you don't want and keep you stuck in the cycle and the pattern of that particular part, you can see the part from the observer perspective, meaning that instead of getting wrapped up in the hamster wheel of the thought pattern, you can look at that thought pattern and ask that thought pattern where it's come from. And a lot of times it will come from a place of fear and sadness based on something that's happened to you in the past, which is why we live life in cycles. Different people will show up in your life, and somehow the same thing will happen over and over and over again. And it's truly because you are a vibrational match to that particular situation, because you have an active vibration of that particular situation within you. So how do we clear that pattern? How do we clear that stuck energy? Well, first we have to allow it. When we allow ourselves to have that freak out moment, but instead of staying stuck in the freak out, we take a step back, and from the observer perspective, from your soul perspective, you can watch that little part of yourself, and maybe you can even ask that part, hey, how old are you? Because usually that part will be vibrationally matched up to a time in your life where something had happened. Maybe the first time that particular scenario happened will pop into your head, or the last time that it happened. And you'll be able to notice, okay, that makes sense. This part is scared of X, Y, and Z because X, Y, and Z happened to this part, maybe one time, maybe a bunch of times. But from this seat of observer consciousness, now instead of being the part that continues to get caught up in that same story, therefore manifesting more of that same story, you can unravel karmic DNA. And everything is what you ascribe to it, because you're the creator of your reality. So if you're telling the story of, I feel like I did this bad thing and now karma is coming to get me, you are literally attracting negative karma into your life because you're telling the story of negative karma. And so if instead you say, oh, it was so interesting that I fell into that pattern and I'm really excited to be the observer of this pattern, you're not going to have any negative karma that's going to go along with that, because the negative karma is just there to help you to get uncomfortable so that you stop doing the thing. It's not there to come and get you because you're a bad person. It's there to teach you something. So when you think about it in that sense, to where now, okay, I'm the observer consciousness, I'm well aware of where this part is coming from and why they're thinking the thoughts that don't feel good, that are manifesting more things that I don't want. And instead of continuing to allow this part to run the show, I'm going to call on a different part of myself. And you can even start to name the parts of yourself in a sense that if you have a really critical part of yourself who's always saying, you know, I don't look good, or this, that, or the other thing about me, I wish I could change it. For me, I named that part Crystal. So Crystal is very concerned with how she appears to the outside world. Very, very nervous about not only what she looks like, but also what she feels like, because she knows that her feeling is an indication of how she's going to come across. And so from that place of being like, okay, I understand that Crystal probably began when I was about 5, when I started competing in dance competitions, and I started to realize that I needed to look a certain way in order to be able to do really well, right? Coming from that place of being like, okay, baby Christina manifested this part named Crystal because she felt like she needed that part to keep herself safe, to be able to be successful, to be lovable. And you notice that if you feel like you need to be lovable, then where is that coming from? When did that start? And the vibration of needing to be lovable always has stemmed from the beginning of time, when if you didn't have a tribe of people to take care of you who loved you, you were going to die, because we lived in tribes and we weren't so secluded into little family units. We were always a part of a bigger group to keep us safe. So our nervous systems have basically evolved to be in the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight, flight, or fawn response mode. And as we've evolved into this energy of everybody being deeply rooted in a fear-based response pattern, now we're realizing that this is a pattern that's actually killing us. And from that place of deep stress and fear about really mundane little things like, do I look okay? We're causing our bodies to attack themselves. And we're setting a precedent that's really unattainable, and always reaching for that next thing, that when I have this, I'll be happy. When I have that, when I look a certain way, then I'll be happy. And there's all of these other different parts that are vying for your attention at all times. And so one part will say something, and then the other part will come back with maybe a rebuttal, argue for this side, argue for that side. And when you notice you're doing that, instead of getting wrapped up in that and creating entire constructs and stories around these wounded parts of yourself, you can just observe the parts and mother and father the parts from a place of, really, this is interesting. What can I do to support this part of myself? What does this part need right now? And you're going to start to notice that your life starts to feel a lot better and a lot more fun when you stop trying to argue for the limitations of the parts. When someone will provoke you and say something or do something that activates one of the parts, and you start to demonize that person that's made you feel anxious or given you a sense of anxiety because it's activated a wounded part of yourself, you start demonizing the person who has made you feel that way. You start telling everybody else about why this person is bad because they made you feel a certain way. You're digging your heels in to argue for the limitations of the wounded part of yourself. Therefore, continuing to activate that vibration and continuing to create more and more and more and more situations like that. A really good example of this is when people manifest the ending of friendships because they've had a friend who maybe treated them poorly in the past and they're afraid that that's going to happen again. And so they start freaking out and talking about, I'm so scared I'm going to lose this, that, or the other thing. And it can go for friendships. It can go for romantic relationships. It can go for literally a job. It can go for anything. When you start getting into a fear-based mindset of, I'm going to lose this thing, and you start freaking out and telling the story of that, people are going to get annoyed with you. They're going to realize that you're not on the same frequency as them. They're going to realize that you're stuck in a pattern and you don't even know it. You're pushing that really, really good thing that you wish so badly you could keep away by the fear of that. Because there's always a vibrational match to whatever the thing is that you're freaking out about. And that is going to be the thing that gives you an additional pain point, an additional karmic layer that now you're going to have to unravel later. Because you're actively building a neural network in your mind of, I am fearful. I am pushing this away. I am not worthy. And from that place of unworthiness, you are actively showing other people that you are unworthy because you create your reality. You're creating a construct around yourself and around this wounded part that's pushing everything that you want away. Because that's how manifestation works, is you talk about something, and instead of saying, no, I don't want this thing, what you're really saying to the universe is, come to me, this thing I do not want. Manifest this thing that I'm talking about, even though I'm saying I don't want it, because your focus upon it will bring it to you. The laws of the universe are clear and consistent, and the game of life is simple, easy, and fun. It's just a matter of healing the parts of yourself that are perpetuating a reality that you do not want. And by the power of your beautiful emotions, the power of the negative emotion that you feel when you're telling a story of something you don't want, you get to change the story. You get to become a vibrational match to what you do want. Your negative emotion and that fear that you're trying to call your intuition is actually your inner guidance system. It's your GPS. Your anxiety is not your intuition. You are the creator of your reality. The story that you're telling about your fear is creating more of that, is making you a vibrational match to things that you do not want. So this is your divine opportunity to listen to your GPS, your guidance perception system, and create a roadmap to peace for all of the parts of yourself. For the part that's afraid about this, that, or the other thing. For the part that's angry about something. Instead of being on the hamster wheel of all of those different parts of yourself, you come back to the seat of your soul. Because your soul always sees you as loving and as amazing. God always sees you as living your highest alignment. And you feel negative emotion when you're thinking a thought that's in opposition to the way that God thinks about you. And when you're thinking a thought that's in opposition to the way that God thinks about the other person. So check yourself before you wreck yourself. If you find yourself on a low vibrational frequency, all you have to do is ask yourself, what does this part need? My emotions are an indicator of my active vibration. The way that I feel is the indicator of what I'm going to attract next. What do I actually want? I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. If you liked this video, click the like button, share with your friends, and be sure to subscribe. I'll see you next time.